What's up guys, this is Sean and welcome back to the iherng podcast. Anyway, this episode is brought to you by the Makeover guys. If you guys have just received a new project with the intention of investment, please do check out the website because for all my units, I am actually using them. And so far, the results are pretty awesome lah. And if you're really interested, please remember to use the promo code SeanTanMakeover22, SeanTanMakeover22. If not, you can just check out the website and get an instant quotation just for reference purposes because everything is actually itemized with the cost as well. So it's a good reference. Do check it out. And back to the podcast. Today we will answer a question from email. This is from YY. Dear Sean, I came across your channel 2 months ago and found your insights and knowledge to be really helpful. Thank you for the wonderful content and keep up the good work. I hope you enlighten more people on their journey into property investment. I reached out to get your views on my predicament. I bought a Rumah Whip, a very spacious 1035 square feet at 300,000 in 2016 with a 10 years moratorium, which means I can only dispose in 2026. I was quite fresh in the workforce and bought the property because I thought it was a good deal. The location is in a matured township near my family home where my parents stayed, and the MRT was scheduled to construct nearby. The MRT station is now up and only 500 meters away. I had planned to move into the Rumah Whip after I got married, but that didn't materialize as I changed my mind. The Rumah Whip has been giving me rental income since the first year I received the keys, however slightly short of approximately 300 to cover my monthly installment. As I changed my mind to not move into the Rumah Whip, I then start to shop for a marital home. My criteria was affordability, connectivity, near my family home and with decent facilities considering I had a young child. I ended up purchasing a development by Asset Kaya Mas along Old Klang Road in 2021. It met my criteria and due to the MCO, the package was attractive. The purchase price was 500,000 for a 1,000 square feet unit due to receive in 2025. Fast forward to now, my income has increased significantly and I want to move out from my parents' place as soon as possible. However, I still need to wait 2 more years to get the keys to my second property. To be honest, at that point in time of purchasing the second property, I can only afford that and hence have to settle for that. I actually had my eyes set on a fancier property and preferred a bigger unit, actually around 1,200 square feet, but decided not to as I do not want to purchase what I cannot afford. Recently, after assessing the second property from a feng shui point of view, I found it to not be so ideal. These factors prompted me to hunt again for a bigger unit since I can now afford one. FYI, I am just hunting as I do not plan to actually commit the purchase until I can dispose the Rumah Whip in 2026. Since I have not received the keys to my second property yet, I cannot dispose nor rent it out either. There are a few properties near my desired area that caught my interest, however, I have cautioned myself to exercise self-discipline, not to get carried away as I have 2 properties at hand which I cannot dispose to get some cash. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Considering I want to move out from my parents' place ASAP and I am now also hoping to dispose of my second property ASAP. I am quite stuck. Just for laughs, you might even think my situation is not a predicament since what is bugging me is vanity and pride. For example, I just want a bigger unit with nicer facilities in a decent neighborhood that meets the feng shui criteria, which both the Rumah Whip and second property cannot satisfy. Thank you and looking forward to your valuable insights and view. Wow, so thank you YY for sending in the email. One Rumah Whip and the second one is actually in Old Klang Road, which is 500,000, both 1,000 over square feet. And let's jump right into the Rumah Whip first. So a lot of people are actually confused with the terminology of moratorium. During MCO, the government also introduced something called moratorium, where it's actually a form of easing of payment, which means that property owners with a financial facility gets to opt of not paying the monthly installment for 6 months, and it was extended to also another +6 if not mistaken. So for a year, property owners get to choose not to pay the monthly installment and banks cannot charge more for the first 6 months. The later 6 months, when then they can actually do that. Just imagine, right? That 1 month, 30% of your income actually goes to installment. The extra 6 months, you have 180% more money to spend, and suddenly a lot of luxury goods within the market all spike up in price, especially watches. That's one form of moratorium. In the rumah whip context of moratorium, then it's actually applied to the restriction of selling. Once you get the property, within 10 years time, you cannot dispose the property. It means you cannot sell. But they are quite lenient with the renting out part, which I think should also be reinforced, but that's a story for another day. So for her, she bought that because that was the only thing she could afford back then. And this is also one story, right, where it applies to a lot of people as well, where YY here bought the first rumah whip because that's only what she can afford. Then when she buy that, then when it's handed over, right, she suddenly thinks that it's not good enough. She go and buy something better, in her opinion, up to what she can afford, right? When that is the second scenario, the third scenario, then now she wants a better unit, but now she's stuck. She's stuck because the income actually grew, and kind of think about it, our standards of living, our preferred choice of residence or lifestyle, right, it all depends on our income. That is why all this while I would prefer to actually buy property for investment's sake. So just imagine if my first property is based on investment perspective, right? Now if the renter can cover the installment, then it's not an issue. So I don't have to think about disposing later for more cash or whatsoever, right? That applies to the second one as well. Meanwhile, where do I stay? I rent a place to stay because this is exactly happening to me. When we first bought the property in Bukit Jalil, it was only me and my wife. But then after MCO, we had a kid. Suddenly the unit now becomes too small. Then we go and get another landed property for the intention of staying. Then both of us get really busy with our career. Then we get a domestic helper. Then suddenly now 3 bedrooms within the house is not enough. We need more space. Takkan now, right, for every stage of life, I buy one property, and the completion of property cannot keep up with the changes in my life. So from then on, I made the decision to actually rent. So you just think about it, right? If I were to rent a place 3 to 5 years time, first of all, the owners will be very, very happy. And if I were to really like the place, I can always search around the building and proceed with a subsale property if I really enjoy it. Hence the theory of renting where I stay, buying where I invest. Then the main question is, when do I then decide to get a dream home of ours? Until my property portfolio is sorted out, until my income is sorted out, and I'm very certain. Like now, I think I'm almost there already, maybe another 3 or 4 more years time when I'm 40 to 45 years old, right? Okay, everything starts stabilized already. My kid starts going into primary school. There are less uncertainties already. Then truly I understand, do I go for a penthouse or do I go for a landed stratified property? And what's the budget range and location? Do I really need to be in a city? At that point of time, maybe I have my own business. I go to work whenever I want, right? Or maybe I work from home. So I get to actually choose, maybe I have a landed in Cyberjaya where it's way more value of money. It's close to the airport when I travel. I can actually go to the city via MRT or the highway pretty easily. Or I just get a penthouse within Mont Kiara itself. Everything is settled within walking distance, right? So that's a whole different lifestyle. And by 40, you will know exactly what you want. If not, right, it's going to be like now. And it's also not wrong to actually buy like what you did. Like FOMO is part of the equation because like, oh, this is only what I can afford. I buy now just in case. And just in case. So technically, if the first house is not a rumah whip, right, and there's no moratorium, this game is played right, which means, so now I want to buy my third one, I can actually sell out my first one, then I get back my 90% loan and I finance myself on the third one. But too bad, this is an affordable home by the government, therefore there are restrictions in the sales process, which I agree also. If not, everybody will just speculate on it, right? Also, another very important thing that YY mentioned is the construction period. A lot of people do not take that into account. Like the project that you buy, yes, you are hot now, you want to buy, right? When I buy now, 4 years later only you get a house. And a lot of things can happen within these 4 years. Everyone just underestimate what 4 years can do to you. So on a good side like yourself, YY, your income drastically improve and you actually have additional family members. This then differs to individual ambitions and confidence. Okay, what I mean is that a lot of people, especially commission-based folks, when they are having a great year, what they worry is that next year might not be the same. Most of the time it's only because their hunger level is not consistent. After I made a good year, right? Hey, you know what, I can chill already, so the next year it's not going to do so great because full already. The point is they are worried that the future might be inconsistent, therefore they buy now first while the bank still like their profile. And that's why personally I prefer subsale properties actually, where I get more certainty and I get the property in a shorter period. For freehold property, usually after you sign the SPA, it takes around 6 to 7 months. But in a leasehold property, then it will take longer. So once I sign, for everything to go through, because it also requires the consent from the state, so it takes around 8 to 9 months time. Of course, if upfront payment is an issue, upfront capital is an issue, too bad lah, no choice, we have to settle for new properties. And the only reason why personally I would pick new properties is when the discounts upfront is more handsome, it's good enough compared to the subsale, because this is when the entire valuation process of the building is different, and this is where you can actually be a little bit more creative in the packaging of the product. You get better deals via bulk purchases. But when it's subsale, right, when it's existing, right, you get to only nego with one person. But of course, the best form of deal is always when it's a completed unsold project, which means there are buildings that are newly completed, but not all buildings 100% sold one, and when you go in, you get all the perks of buying from a developer, where it includes all the free MOT lah, free this lah, free SPA lah, free whatever lah, right? And you still get all the certainty and you get the unit immediately. Of course, that's the best case scenario, but most of the time, the selling price has already been revised. So, and something very interesting that YY point out is also the second property is not ideal for her because besides the size, the feng shui point of view is not very good. So this one, cool fact, I'm actually studying feng shui right now, so maybe 2 years from now I get to provide feng shui advices in the future. That would be so cool, because the thing about it, that's one of the only portion, the only intangible thing that I have not really explored enough within the entire real estate cycle. So I'm personally looking very forward to it. I'm studying very hard right now. So in this case of YY, right, what can be done? First thing first, because you have a kid and I'm not sure about your marriage situation. My first question is, if you want to buy a bigger house, and the goal right here is actually to move out the parents' place as soon as possible. And these are my suggestions. Suggestion number one is to rent. Go rent a property and really do explore. Like you say 1,000 square feet is too small for you, let's get a room that is 1,500 and with the facilities that you need, and go find out whether do you really like it. I'm not too sure whether what kind of house that you are living in right now with your parents, but definitely speaking from experience, moving out from the parents' house, that provides more freedom actually. Finally, you have a space that you can call home. You know, anything you do to the house, right, always you gotta look at your father's face, need and seek for approval first, right? Very leceh one. I do understand, okay? So my suggestion, if you don't mind, rent. And take this as a learning curve actually. Maybe just take a 2 years lease and experience living in yourself. With that, you better understand what are your needs. Now within 2 years time, right, you get to really experience of what you really want within a unit itself. So my suggestion, like what I did is, because I'm part of the makeover guys, my team actually help list out properties as well. So from there, I just pick whatever unit that's fully furnished and I just move in with the luggage. Of course, a lot of things are still not complete, like within the toilet itself, within the kitchen, you need all your cookwares and stuff. But having a fully furnished unit really just saves a lot of problem. I just move in. Within 2 days that I decide I want to rent, 2 days later, we are living inside and sleeping inside already. So from there, we kind of discovered, hey, the kitchen size should be this because we want to have more cooking. Hey, I think I need an extra room. Like 3 bedrooms right now is not enough. I need a unit that has 4 bedrooms. This unit is nice because the living is big, but then I don't need so big. So you slowly know yourself, you slowly know your preference of your lifestyle and things like that. Meanwhile, for the Rumah Widman, you can actually dispose it in 1 to 2 years time. So while renting, you actually dispose that. At the same time, when your Old Klang Road unit is ready, you can furnish it and rent it out lor. The only debate here with this is the stigma of renting. A lot of people will think that, hey yo, you're so 可怜, so poor man, need to go and rent your house, man. And when you say you want to move out, right, moving out, the logistic part, right, just rent, pay money and move, right, is not the tough part. The tough part is to deal with the existing family members, because they will think that they are the problem. The art of communication here then will be tested, where you have to let them know that they are not the problem while they are. So that's the troublesome part. The real estate part is actually easy. The second solution is to actually explore your husband's side. So as mentioned just now, I'm not too sure about your marriage condition right now. You didn't really speak about him. So if both of you are very loving and you guys are together, right, what is his financial situation like? Because there still got allocation one. Maybe there's something there to be explored further. And I guess that's the two solutions so far, because the rest, like you say, you actually need time. And I do admire the spirit of knowing more, learning more. You are going around and you deploy the discipline that's required. So this is where I come up with the 20 property rule. After you see enough, only you know what you like, what you don't like, what's an investment property, what's an own stay property. I'm a landed person or I'm a high-rise person. After you've seen enough, only you get to really make the informed decision and take calculated risk. But dialing the back a little bit, right, what's very surprising is the rumor whip with the access to MRT, right, still cannot break even. Something must be very, very wrong. It's either you didn't furnish the property or the rental there is just not as great. This is something very rare. I don't see, because most of rumor whips all will have surplus one. Maybe there's something you can look into. But the great moral of the story is that there's this aspect of timeline whenever we invest or when we purchase properties. Last time it's easier because at most houses are completed in 24 months time, because individual title is 24 months, or stratified properties minimum is 36. But most of the high-rise properties, especially those higher density properties, will have 48 months or 60 months actually. So imagine I buy 5 years later, only I get the keys there. And within this 5 years time, it takes up my 90% allocation already. And within this 5 years time, let's say I get double promotion 2 years in a row, I'm now in a good state, I want to invest more, cannot, because your 90% slot is actually taken up. So these are also some things that you need to take into consideration when you invest. But then, as mentioned, this depends highly on the confidence on yourself. Are you confident in your ability to make more money? Indirectly, this confidence also addresses a lot of FOMO situations. Like, oh, if I don't sign now, right, later no more unit, how? As if like we can only buy the project during its project launch. Anytime when it's handed over, right, we can always buy subsale. Right? So if you're confident that you can have more income in the future, maybe 4 years from now, you can always come back to the project that you aspired to buy and buy subsale. Most of the time, within the 6 months time after VP, right, a lot of people want to release one, because a lot of people then regret their purchase, and this is where you get to really squeeze in more and then get a good deal. But anyway, for YY, I guess like what you say, this is not really a problem. Yes, this is not really a problem. It's more of a frustration that is often faced by people that are a little bit more proactive. If you're proactive in life, right, the waiting of properties is actually pretty suffering one. Because there's nothing you can do within the construction period. Until it's handed over, only you get to make moves. So meanwhile, like you say, you're doing the right thing already, you're getting yourself educated, you're seeing more things. And this is, I would really encourage you to move out. And for context, not that I want to encourage her to move out, okay? It's because she wanted to move out herself, but I would suggest to move out earlier, maybe 2 years experience in a different scenario altogether. And the growth you will experience, right, by living with your husband and the kid only, maybe 2 years later when you get the keys, right, when you want to buy a new property, a cool conversation is maybe you want to move back while preparing for your second kid. All these things will happen, and it also illustrates that people underestimate time a lot here. They really underestimate the amount of changes that can happen within 2 to 3 years time, and the mindset about renting, because it's like making people rich. To me, I'm actually paying for the temporary convenience. So I would suggest to pay more attention to the rumor whip, try to make some adjustment to push the rental up, and do the same for the second property, because like just now when we mentioned, most of the time after you get your keys, right, the selling price won't be the best one. And don't worry too much about the feng shui thing, because feng shui may not be ngam for you, but for tenants, they don't look too detailed because it's only for temporary purposes. Until that happens, right, until you VP and you clear the first property, right, then there will be another option later where you get to refinance the second property into a non-banking institution. You can refinance this into an insurance company where they also provide housing loan. And then the beauty of that is this will not be included within the 2 residential slot. But the challenges for that is you might not have enough equity just yet for the very first property. Maybe, I'm not too sure, can you refinance rumah WIP? This is something very cool. We haven't seen any refinancing for rumah WIP just yet. We have seen a lot of auctions for rumah WIP. Refinancing, maybe. Because you have enough equity already, you have hold it for so many years, right? Because refinancing at most is 80% only. And if you can refinance that, you get one more allocation of 90% loan and you get to buy the property that you want to live in using that 90% slot, then maybe that's another way. But again, we need to wait until that time to come. Maybe meanwhile, you can understand more. I'll just put the contact number of Miss Catherine at the description box. You can just contact her, say you watched Sean's video and hi. And I guess that's about it for today. Thank you very much for sending in the email. It's amazing to hear from a woman that's being so aggressive within real estate investment, and I'm pretty surprised, also delighted, because for those who got study feng shui a little bit, right, period 9 actually indicates empowerment for women a little bit more. So I guess we're going to get a little bit more questions from women trying to get into real estate more. I do hope so. And for those who still have any questions regarding real estate, do just email me at taniherng@gmail.com. You can just DM me on Instagram, iherng. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Ciao.